Hello, I'm Dan Schutte. I'm here with my friend and St. Louis Jesuit companion, Roc O'Connor, to talk about his new collection, All Shall Be Well, The Hand of God. Welcome, Roc.
Thank you, Dan. You are a natural at this already, but
Oh, I don't know about that.
no,
There,
you're
there will be,
good.
there will be flubs for sure on both our parts, right?
You're good.
So I'm
Yeah.
so glad we're here to talk about this collection. Some people out there listening to this may not know that our relationship and music making together goes back, let me see, 53 years this September. Um, we were just kids back then.
No
Oh my
fooling.
gosh, just out of high school. It's a great honor, and it's always been a privilege to be in this grand venture of making music for liturgy and people's prayer with you. Thanks for
It's
being
been
here.
wonderful, Dan. And when I think back to those days, I still am delighted and amazed at the depth of the stuff you were writing. Yahweh the Faithful One and
Oh, thank you, thank you.
uh, Easter
As
Vigil
as
stuff you did.
as you well know in your music writing, your own music writing, there's a good deal of that that's mystery and grace. You know, how as young kids we were inspired to write stuff like that. So let's talk about your album.
Okay.
So it's called All Shall Be Well, The Hand of God. And there are 8 songs in the collection. So my first question to you, Roc, would be why these 8 songs, and what do the pieces say about the state of liturgy and people's prayer today?
Good question. And so I made the mistake of submitting a lot of songs. It had been a while, so I just kind of did a dump of songs. When it came down to, okay, here are 15 to choose from, choose 8. One of the things I considered was a stream of development that had started back at the crux between writing All Shall Be Well and In Your Presence, Oh God. That was 92, 93 when I started those things. And I was at Weston, at the Weston School of Theology in Cambridge, Mass, back in the day, and had started, I believe, All Shall Be Well. I don't remember starting that. I just remember having it and working with it. It was one of those things. But I took a seminar from the Jesuit Peter Fink at Weston on the personalist philosophy of John McMurray. And that started to answer and raise questions about the personalist nature of liturgical encounter. And so from that time on, more and more, not always, I started writing stuff in the I-thou relation. Me speaking to God, us speaking to God. Like, and Holy God, we praise thy name is like the prime example of that. I'm established in this relationship with God, and here I am. That seemed like an important stream for today. The establishment of the praying community as an I made up of multiple I's in relationship to God. And that's what I wanted to show. That was one thing. The second thing was in selecting, I haven't written that many fast songs since for 30 years. Just a few, really. But I started noticing that what I think now as a card-carrying introvert, which I didn't function like 30, 40 years ago, I started saying, I need more time in a slower place in liturgical praying. So that really, those two things govern the choices.
Ah, that's wonderful insight. I was aware that All Shall Be Well was a song that you started a long time ago. I had no idea it was around 92. I think the first time you played it for me was when the five of us St. Louis Jesuits gathered here in San Francisco, and we shared some of our music with each other. I remember sitting actually in your bedroom. We sat on the bed and you were showing the piece, playing it and so forth. So I knew it went back that far, but boy, another 10 years before that even. Why don't we talk about that particular song, because it's the title song for your collection. Why did you choose that of the 8 pieces? Why did you choose that one to sort of capture what this collection was about for you?
So I wouldn't have to put it in the nursing home, you know, not that that's a terrible place, except these days it's difficult for everyone there. But it was of an age that there were musical, I needed to take that song to the chiropractor a number of times because there were things just out of joint about it. And one of the things was the lyrics, and the other part was a few places in the melody that when I'd sing it with people that just wouldn't get it right. And I thought, it sounds right to me. There must be something off about it. So it really took till 2017 to 25 years later, holy buckets, and to feel like it had matured to the point of getting there. And also way before COVID, 2.5 years before that, I thought that this could be an important song for the times as well as pace. So but what do I mean by that? And why do I think I could say it's an important song for our times? I think what the excruciatingly slow pace allows is for singers and players to be present. So the words can obviously be comforting. All shall be well, and all shall be well. The hand of God is ever on my life. Pace, a slow pace, allows room to say, oh yeah, this stuff about COVID really sucks. This is really painful. My life isn't what it used to be. I'm in danger of job loss. I'm in danger of this. What do we do about the terrible racial inequalities in our time? And all isn't well.
Yeah.
The slower pace allows me to sing the song and be present to that, not just the comforting part of it,
Right.
but allows me to be present as I really am in the day-to-day life.
It reminds me, harkens back to your song Jesus the Lord, which you wrote so many years ago.
Yeah.
But what you did with that song so exquisitely was use the slow contemplative pace that included also, I remember you often talking about the breathing when we say that prayer, that Jesus prayer. So these slow, as you say, excruciatingly slow tempos for this it's different than Jesus the Lord, but it's the same sort of thing about helping people to enter into the prayer, not just on a superficial level, but having enough time to get underneath.
Yeah, exactly. And that and some of the other pieces kind of emerge from that essential place.
Right. As both you and I have spent our lives writing music but for worship, for communities of people to sing. And that's not to say that many of our songs are also very helpful for personal, individual prayer. How would you help a community, or suggest for a parish music director or a pastor, help a community to enter into the slowness of your pieces, like All Shall Be Well, so that they don't experience it just as this painful, slow tempo, and they're sitting there wondering, why in the hell
What time is it? Wait a minute.
How would you help a pastoral person or a music director introduce the piece so that it would help to do that?
You know, one way could be to practice centering prayer with them. The breathing,
yeah,
slowing, to practice the song as centering prayer with them, and to look for breadth in it, to look for, I don't know, just best word I can come up with now is breadth, that to do it too quickly could reveal something important about the song, to do it quickly. I've never tried it that way. But I would invite the director, the pastor, whomever, to say, let's just trust this for a few minutes and notice what comes up. Mm-hmm. Because whatever it is, whether it's feeling comforted by God or not, okay, now put that in dialogue with God.
Right.
You're hearing this. You get to be who you are right now, right, before the Lord.
Yeah.
And try to aim for that.
You know, it strikes me as it could be a wonderful thing for a pastor to do in a homily, to introduce and help people to actually enter into that kind of prayer, and then use the piece as sort of the closing piece of the homily. So many times, I don't know about you, you're a wonderful preacher, but when I happen to visit parishes on weekends, so many times the homily is about something. It's about the scripture. It can be giving people information about this scripture passage, but it doesn't take people into that place that you're talking about, where it's an encounter with God.
Yeah. And that's risky. To be willing to be recognized, to recognize myself as I am. One of the old guys in the community brought up this thing from Augustine, his Latin, he's one of the great Latinists, noverem me, noverem te. May I know myself, may I know you, O God. And I thought it was all about knowing God for all these years, for a long time. And as a complementary movement to say, if I get to be present before God as I am, there's going to be stuff that will be more wonderful and more difficult than I ever thought. But it's in the presence of a God who receives me. Right. All shall be well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the God who doesn't just take flesh in some outside world, but takes flesh in us too.
Exactly.
So, let's shift gears just a little bit. Tell me about what the experience was of recording this collection. Where did you do it? Who did you do it with? Who was involved? What was it like coming back to the studio?
Abject terror. Yeah, because it had been 14 years since I'd done that. And I thought I was ready in terms of my hand and calluses and stuff, and I wasn't. Surprised. So anyway, a few quick things to start with. Basic tracks. The wonderful Rick Modlin at OCP on piano. My brother, Mike, who came up to play guitar from Minnesota, and me. We did, I think it was on 6 or 7 pieces. We did the basic guitar and piano tracks. And then as Kevin Walsh, producer, I'm so grateful to have worked with him. What a genius, what a grand and delightful human being. And Mike, of course, at the engineering table. You know, when I'm in there, I'm thinking 30 different things. And as much as we talked about being present, that's the challenging thing for me in the studio, to say, okay, what is actually going on? And does it match what I wanted, what I, have felt for 30 years on this piece?
Yeah.
So Kevin was a big help. You came up when we recorded the choir to be there, Dan. That was so important. That was really cool. You have such good ears, and you understand the studio. You understand making sound. So that was incredibly helpful. The next week, the bass player, the cellist, the oboe player, the flutist, and all those folks came in. And then Tim Mannion came in right toward the end to record vocals and put down some guitar tracks, which was always fun. And Keely Rogel from Seattle. And then the choir just did, I thought, a fine job. And the last little bit was getting with Rick Modlin again. He brought in his analog synth, and we put down some tracks that were, I said, let's play with this. Huh, nice. Actually, the stuff with the bells, blanket on the drummer's name, but he brought in this bell rack, and I said, I want 37 seconds of bells. And so he did 5 tracks of different bell sounds, came in and listened to it. And this guy was right there listening. He said, take this track and move it this far and take this other track out. And we listened again, and it was perfect.
Very cool.
Just perfect. I thought, man, this guy's, as we say, a monster. He's cool.
Yes, I suspect it's the same percussionist that I've dealt with a few times. And he's
amazing.
Isn't it exciting when you experience the different pieces of it falling together? The puzzle fits. I know from our St. Louis Jesuit work together that sometimes what happens in the studio comes out just what you want it to be. Sometimes it's surprisingly better than what you imagined it to be. And sometimes, it's like, oh, I wish I could go in and fix this or
always.
Where is it all of those at play?
All of those. I thought especially on In Your Presence, Oh God, adding the few bells, but also the layers of voices and the synth and stuff like that. It felt, first of all, fun, but then it felt like we're adding depth to it. And it was just the right thing. I thought the right thing to do there.
Sure. I don't know if this is a good question, or because you are and I are sort of in the same boat. We're only a year apart in age, and entering into our diminishment, as Teilhard Chardin would put it.
Well, you know, Dan, 73 is the new 72.
Yes. What do you experience a difference in your music writing now than what you did when we were just kids?
Yes, intensely. And I am more than amazed at it. So let me just say this, the last 3 years, 4 years maybe, what I've primarily written is gospel and blues. And I don't know why, and I don't know where that comes from, except that genre feels like the place of, extending the sense of the scriptures that I'm hearing. So, I mean, a few of those go way, way back, but I'm trying to think of one. One is called "There Is a Famine in the Land." And I just thought this morning, it's a lament.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's where I'm going, or I'm being drawn, is more toward lament. I don't know.
It certainly fits with what we are experiencing this year with the pandemic. And as you well know, there's so many people are experiencing such great loss in their lives, so many levels of loss. Not loss of loved ones for sure, loss of their health and vitality, but loss of simple things that we may not even have recognized as being so important to us. Being able to greet somebody with a hug.
I know.
There's great loss. So talking about lament and you're feeling drawn to that place, it makes perfect sense to me. I mean, you're in step with what's going on in the world and in your heart.
I hope so. Here's also, at least what I perceive in there are those people really who deal with a very difficult disease, celiac, where food comes in and it goes right through without nourishing the people. And that's a terrible disease. And I think it's a metaphor for this time too, that this nation we live in is great. And we are so hungry and never satisfied.
Yep.
And I think I'm only just beginning to get to the point of, I've felt that for the longest time, but of being able to grieve that instead of blame others or my parents or somebody else, but say,
or yourself, what's
myself,
wrong with me,
but just there's something there about an affluent society, largely speaking, not everybody, that's starving and can't be satisfied. And I think some of the actions of our younger members of wanting to gather in groups and stuff like that, and forget the COVID. I think there's something about just wanting and wanting and wanting, and
Yeah.
the impulse is stronger than everything else.
Huh. Yeah, I think you're right, Rock. Who, you may have touched on this a little bit, but your new collection going out into the world, you know, you're sending these new songs out. Who do you think would benefit from them most, or what would your target audience be?
I'd always say everybody. And in one sense, I mean that. So, you know, from the Pope on down to janitor at the Catholic high school, in the sense that in looking at these as songs of comfort, what does it mean to be comforted when, like our brothers and sisters with celiac, find it so difficult to be nourished unless they fast from the food that is doing that to them. How do we who are discontent be comforted?
Yeah.
And that's a church, societal, worldwide thing for a lot of folks anyway.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah.
I also think about what you said earlier about the encounter between us and God, our hearts, that I suspect part of that hunger that people feel is they're looking for that encounter and don't know quite how to help it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and music like this can be a vehicle and a tool and a help on that road.
You know, here's a quick thing. I just was thinking about this a bit ago when I was in CPE a long time ago. And it was mainly children with leukemia and cystic fibrosis. So I mostly talked to their parents, but also to the kids. But one of the things, I thought my job was to comfort the parents. And I realized now I needed to listen.
Yeah.
Because in listening, the person tells of the parameters of what comfort sounds like or looks like. And I wonder if that's something today about having these songs with space, where in listening to myself and learning to do that with some compassion, there's a revelation of my own parameters of what comfort means, or what God's mercy looks like for me.
Yeah, for sure. My friend, we're getting close to our goal time, but one last question. Is there more music left in Roc O'Connor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in these 4 years, I think I've composed 20 songs. In the last 2.5 months, I've started 15.
Whoa.
I'm having a hard time bringing these to an end, you know, bringing it home. But especially the last 2 months, here we are on August 7th, the last 2 months of the prophet speaking difficult words really touch me. And surprisingly, it comes out as at least the beginning of a musical idea.
Sure. I'm so glad to hear that there's more music left in you and that it's sort of pouring its way out of you faster than you can manage it all.
Yeah, manage it. Yeah. Thank you.
Roc, thank you so much for this conversation. It's been wonderful not only to help people understand your new collection, All Shall Be Well, but also just on a personal note for us to be able to talk about some of these things.
Well, here's the deal. I don't know if we could work this out, but let me interview you sometime. Oh, wouldn't that be cool? I'd love to ask you these and other questions, Dan.
Sure.
And
Maybe we can get OCP to do that.
I wonder who would do that.
I don't know. Thank you, Roc.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, folks, for listening, and God bless you, and be safe.